to call to order the 10th meeting of the WCAT Working Group. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. I think we can assume we have a quorum.
We do.
Yep, okay. Hopefully this will be fast tonight. Hopefully this will be fast. The first item is the final report, which Steve and I drafted and was up on the Govenda so everyone could review it. This is the report that if the committee votes in favor, will be presented to the town council as the final report of this committee. So for all intents and purposes, this could be the last meeting. We'll see. Although I would suggest that we keep the group together,
Well,
at least in name, until
Well, I
town
think-
council
I
is.
think, oh, yeah. I
Review
think the
this.
town council will, they created the committee. I think one of the last items, if they accept this report, which they should, would be to dissolve the committee.
Yeah. Yeah.
But until then, it is, yes.
Yeah.
Town council created, town council needs.
Because if they make, substantive requests, we may have to come back and meet down the road. But the intention tonight is, if everything goes hopefully according to plan, that we won't schedule a next meeting. We'll see. Brian is not with us. He is covering a basketball game, volleyball game on the other side of the wall.
No.
On the other side of the wall. So, all right.
Mike
So
was planning to come. He may still show up, so.
hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully. I hope everyone had a chance to read the final report that Steve and I drafted. Any comments, questions, thoughts?
That look good.
Thank you.
We really looked at two goals: ensure WCAT is financially self-sufficient and maintains its position as a community media resource for the benefit of the town and the townspeople, and create a strong and lasting partnership between WCAT and the town of Wakefield. I think those were our two goals that we threw in there, and then we went with some action steps.
Right.
One of which I think we talked about drafting an MOU, memorandum of understanding, for those of you that are not up on all these, what do they call them? Acronyms.
Thank you.
Acronyms,
'cause I'm
whatever
not-
they
I'm not an acronym.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, acronyms can be fun.
I don't know.
And that was really looking at what should be the, what is the,
You were right.
I know, I said he was on it. What is the purpose and mission of WCAT, and really looking at that, and I think I said at the last meeting that, welcome. That
Good to be here.
WCAT needs to kind of think of itself as a 501c3, and we need to think of it as a 501c3 as well. The public does. So that was part of it, to enter to that, and I think the second part of it was looking at studio costs and looking at other revenue sources.
Right.
And I can have this, I think, if people agree, back in front of the town council on April 28th. If the group so decides.
Okay. I would assume that I would be required.
Yeah, but you are welcome, as is the entire committee. Can
But
certainly
at least
come.
the chair would have.
But I
to
think
be
at
there.
least the chair should
Yeah.
come. Yeah,
Okay, so.
you may want to come.
Rare that you'll find me silent.
Okay, any comments, questions?
I thought it
Observations?
captured like everything we discussed in the meetings. We cleaned up our initial draft. I thought it captured everything.
I thought it was thorough as well. I only have one question.
Mhm.
So when we did our initial recommendation to the town council, we had made a point that this committee be a standing committee. I don't believe we need to have any further meetings, but I do believe that there may be a time in the future that there may be a need for a committee to be reestablished. The only thing I'm concerned about
Yeah.
is what I mentioned last meeting, which is we're giving the responsibility of some of the local organizations, primarily school department, to hire us to provide services that we have provided that we think the community still needs to receive,
Mhm.
but it's not our call. So the market that we have to serve, which I think we're doing a good job in terms of treating it like a business, and these are the costs, and you're gonna hire us. We don't necessarily have the ability to expand our market or to deal with our major customer, which might create a scenario where the plan that we put in place just doesn't work because of some decisions that were made by others. And we can't solve that problem now. I think we just need to recognize that at some point there may need to be a reconstitution of the committee.
That may or may not come to pass down the road. But this plan has been set up in such a way that hopefully WCAT's board will take on the responsibility of WCAT's financial health in the same way that other 501(c)(3)s are required to do.
No question about
Okay.
that. And the board, I would say the board has done that. We've demonstrated our ability to change our cost structure
Yeah.
in a declining revenue environment.
Yeah.
And we now have, upon approval of town council, the opportunity to invoice at a fair rate organizations within the town or part of the town government that are using our services.
Right,
Great improvement.
right.
So, if the school says we don't care about graduation anymore, we don't care about school football games, we lose a revenue stream that we're contemplating that we will have. And what leverage do we say, well, let me see if I can find someone else who's going to pay for the football games. All right, so we try to find some sponsors. I mean, we can go through a couple of steps, but I'm just concerned.
Underwriters. Can't use the word sponsors. You're a 501(c)(3). Underwriters.
We use the word underwriters. But certainly may not, we just may not be able to create the other customer that should be there as compared to the school department. I'm just concerned about their budget constraints, new costs, and if they have to make a decision, are we going to do something that is media related, or are we going to take that 1/3 of the cable money and hire a teacher? Are we going to broadcast a football game? We're
They
going to hire a
can't
teacher.
use that to hire a teacher.
They have, and they
Legally, they cannot.
Okay, my point is they
Okay,
can use their football pool to hire a teacher. All I'm
Yes.
saying is that at some point we may need to get the town support to come up with a plan if something's not working. That's all I'm saying.
Part of the problem with the status quo right now is they are using that money illegally.
Okay,
Okay, that money is under the Cable Act to be used for the channel
right. So you
that
think
they're
that's gonna change
supposed,
though?
huh?
You think it's gonna change?
It's going to have to change, or the town could lose all the money in WCAT as well. That's always been the threat out there.
Right, if the channel goes
Okay.
dark and we make sure it stays, I mean, that was a threat that Ian was involved
Or
in.
WCAT takes over the educational channel and the high school stuff goes on there, but there's also a lot of educational programming in the archives that could also go on there. There's NASA 360, which is,
Right,
I
exactly.
believe, still free to, no, not
It
free
doesn't
anymore.
exist anymore.
It doesn't exist anymore. That's too bad. That was a great series.
They've done into different things and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Maybe something, we all agree that money should be being used for broadcasting,
Right.
educational related things, and it's
Right.
not. That could be an element of a recommendation that the money that's being received by the school is intended to be used for programming. We can provide the programming, and that money should be available for the programming. It'd be a fight, but that might be a way to structure it. They're receiving money for programming. We're the programmer.
Right.
And so anyway, that's the area that I'm just a little concerned
Well, and
about.
that's why I went to pains to point out the fact that there was a time not too long ago when that program was graduating kids that were a half freshman year ahead of their contemporaries when they went to college.
Yeah, it was interesting. I didn't realize that.
And that's not true anymore.
So perhaps in, so we talk about having a memorandum of understanding.
Yeah.
Not to use the acronym. In the town, should we include the schools in that too? Because we talk about it in the sample. We
Well,
talk
that's-
about that.
That's a
So-
question I have,
So
Steve,
should we
is,
include them in the MOU
well,
with,
who has the ultimate fiduciary responsibility for the school department, the town
well,
or the school department?
they have budget line autonomy, school committee over their budget. And I think the PEG access or the access fee is coming in by statute, which goes to the schools. So they
Right.
would have it, but so I think joining them in this might make them be part of that discussion.
I think that's not a bad idea.
I throw that out to the group. I should
Yeah.
have thought of that before.
Any other comments?
Gets a lot of cooks in the kitchen, but maybe you need them in the kitchen in the beginning. I don't know.
I mean, what this is clearly saying is that without someone funding the programming that's school related, the community appreciates. We are not going to be able to provide that service. We all get on the same page, value the service, and you guys have a better idea about their budget constraints and the choices that they would like to make or whatever. But at the end of the day, it more than likely will be issued to the surface. What the intent of the money is, and so that might be a good idea, Steve.
Well, one of the things we did here last night was, their budget presentation, just under 6% increase. With some caveats being that they're not sure they're going to get the same level of funding from grants and, government flowing down to
Right.
them. So
Right.
the less than 6% was based on, things remaining the same. So I hear what you're saying, the short answer to if they don't want to, run certain programs would be that, well, now you free up time. And maybe you can go do something else, maybe even on the private side that you wouldn't otherwise be able to do. And I know that's not an immediate leap, that's just
Yeah.
saying. Beyond that, if we bring in a new player at this point in time, it seems like you'll probably be extending this process potentially. Is it better to get what we've got to
Yeah.
the town council now as a start?
Yeah,
Because
maybe
like
one
you
thing-
say, this is all whack of the mole, everything
Right.
fiscally is in flux these days, so.
Right. I guess maybe the key point that I agree with you, it could extend the process, it could be contentious. But I think acknowledging that they're getting $160,000 a year, which has the intention statutorily to be used for X.
Right.
And we hope that with the town council's assistance, or something in our report that, the town council should consider whether that money is being used as statutorily as it should be. And that may be an issue that should be considered by the town council in the MOU. Just bringing the point up
Right.
is probably the best thing we could do at this point, in my opinion.
And that may end up as part of the discussion when this is presented to town council.
I don't think there's anything wrong with putting in the report. It's, you say,
Mm-hmm.
because we talk about, I think I didn't bring my copy with me, but I think you do talk about the allocation of the money coming in as a 2/3, 1/3.
I did give the historical background up to the present.
And I think
Okay,
if we were just to say that, at the moment, the money that's statutorily being paid for providing programming on the educational channel is not being used for providing
Well,
broadcast services.
we do say by
It says
statute,
that, yeah.
by
Okay.
statute, the funding must be applied to pay programming and services.
Okay,
That's
So
why.
it actually
yeah,
is
okay,
already
yeah,
in
yeah.
there.
Yeah,
Right.
it's on the bottom
All
of
right.
page two.
Thank you.
So,
all right, and maybe we just say that, you know, it's at the moment, that money is not being used for that purpose.
well, and we're saying that in that
Okay,
paragraph.
well, I didn't bring my copy.
We're saying
Okay,
that in that
super.
paragraph. So I think
Oh,
we
yeah, I
have
think we're
it
okay.
covered for the moment.
Mhm.
I think where this may come up is in talks farther down the road as to how it's going to be applied. Because that hopefully will be the next process through town council is, okay, now where do we go from this? Because town council will have a lot of the statutory decision-making to do that this body does not. You know, we can suggest, we can't make policy.
One thing that we may want to think about, and maybe not in our report, but the Verizon contract does not specify 2/3, 1/3. The other contracts do. Our practice is that we provide 2/3, 1/3, but the Verizon contract specifically says that 4.5% is gonna go to the town of Wakefield for PEG programming.
Right, which I'm surprised that passed muster when that contract was negotiated. I don't know who the parties were or the lawyers involved.
Well, the
Uh,
Verizon
I'm sure
contract
it's
is
changed
recent.
from
That's
my-
I think,
that's the
I
mo-
think
it's
as
our most
I,
recent.
as I recall from Mullen stating that Verizon didn't want to get involved in that. Would you do what you want, town?
Yeah.
And we just kept maintaining.
Well,
So
basically-
therefore, we have, the
Yeah.
town has the ability
In
to
the new
decide how
contract.
that money is
Right.
going to be allocated, and perhaps town council takes the approach that if you're not gonna use the money in the intended format, then we're gonna follow the two contracts that require you to get the money, and we're not gonna use the other one. You know, it's another angle that we should recognize and be prepared to discuss in.
Or the other
next phase.
possibility is the educational channel is moved under WCAT's aegis. You know,
That would solve.
That would solve all the
That
problems
would solve
right
all the
there.
problems, so I think that,
You know, and then the school department would basically be a client of WCAT.
but in doing that, it would certainly make sense that we would make a commitment that we're going to do, you know, this programming that has been school related, that we've always been doing, blah, blah, blah.
But you're
Whatever.
already doing it.
Well,
I know, but we're
Yeah.
just gonna.
It's just, it's nothing more than just,
We
you
can't
know-
take we can't take their franchise fee and then charge them to do the service. I mean, I won't.
no. Then you would have to look at that, you know, how much does a franchise fee cover? And then anything
Oh,
above
I
and
see what you're
beyond
saying.
that.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because you still have the school committee still going to be covered as long as they're in the studio,
Mhm.
you know.
Yep.
For free. Town council will still be covered, gavel to gavel, you know, as long as they're in the studio for free.
Mhm.
There was a time going back when the Board of Selectmen met in the Board of Selectmen room at Town Hall, and WCAT and the Public Works Department had split the cost on building a custom one operator multi-camera setup in that room.
Mhm.
The selectmen moved here, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, because it was after my time. The selectmen moved here when that system ultimately aged out and failed. And they've
Yeah.
been here ever since for that reason, because the cost of replacing it at the time was prohibitively expensive.
and redundant, that wasn't needed.
No.
Yeah.
No, and, you know, this has worked out very, very well, and a number of bodies have met here. Human Rights, when I was a member of that, met here
Mhm.
for the 3 years I was a member. Do they still? No, where do they meet now?
Who's this?
Human Rights,
Human Rights probably is meeting on Zoom right now.
okay, all right,
So in terms of getting back to this, I think that you know, we have the opportunity for these issues to be discussed. There seems to be some angles that could be considered. And as long as the town council is educated on the I don't know how an MOU gets negotiated, whether it's a, another little subcommittee that puts it together, but in some form or fashion, the people that are entering into the agreement will understand some of the levers, some of the dynamics, and since WCAT will be represented on the committee, will help them understand that.
Well, I think the MOU would be negotiated between, yeah, it would be negotiated between the two bodies with lawyers for each body involved. Unfortunately, WCAT has a handicap in that their board member can't represent WCAT to the town because he's the town moderator. So you would have
I
to
bet
get
you
an
he- He
outside.
could get a waiver and then he and Mullen could negotiate this together.
Three beers at Davio's, and that would be,
With
it
Bill
would all
having
be taken
2.5
care
of
of.
them.
Yeah,
But
but ethically, it would be a question.
I think it is in here.
Good.
It is that the school department's mentioned and they weren't represented in this committee,
Mhm.
so.
By
I think we can't
choice,
Put any more in.
Yep.
by
Okay.
choice. I wish we had had someone from the school department, school committee here in this group. I
I,
really do.
I did what was one mistake in there and I'm blaming myself, is we're talking about,
Which page are we looking at?
I'm looking at page 4 for me. I think if you're looking at online, it might be different depending on how you print it. And it's about halfway down. It starts with the bullet production costs.
To be the responsibility of the
Right.
hiring entity.
I think
or
town
department.
meeting is covered up top, should not be in there. And at the top of that page, WCAT to provide cut live coverage of town meeting sessions. And I'm inconsistent with that, so I'm thinking we take out that whole town meeting section.
Town meeting, town council and school committee.
Right, I would take out town meeting. Personally, town council, as long as they're held in WCAT studios, are waived, so to speak.
Yep.
And this is just for the MOU, this is suggestions, but I would even suggest, I think town meeting, we have it 2 spots, I think it's strange. Personally,
All right, so take out production costs to be the responsibility of, and take out town meeting.
I would take out town meeting
All
personally.
right, does everyone agree with that? Anyone not agree with that? All right, that's out.
Because any WCAT costs that town meeting incurs, for instance, the ADA services, or we've also brought in speakers when we've been outside or in here. That's a separate contract with the town. WCAT does not need any of that, although you're very helpful in coordinating it.
And if there's things that I do forget, then I usually send that invoice in.
Right.
All right, and I'm making a note to make these changes to the original file and send it to you.
Oh, I can do it. I have it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did I send it to you in Word?
Yes, you did.
Oh, okay. All right, well, I will make the, send me
Yeah.
your change.
I'll
so
send
I
it
can
back and
update
I'll
on
send it
my
to
end.
everybody.
All right. Okay, anything else in the document that,
Mr. Chairman, if I could, just a point of thought, is we have been doing all the work that we have been doing for years, without asking people to create a contract. Has anybody had an opinion or a thought in the process of that? Because I feel like what is more likely going to happen is we are going to result in a loss of coverage of things because people either can't or don't want to make that expense conversion.
that's where the 501c3 raising it funding also comes in. If you're working the way WGBH works, and again, WGBH is a 501c3. And you raise enough funding to be able to offer services, and they do offer a lot of public services there. Okay. Beyond the programming that everyone thinks of. Then that requirement, I think, is reduced quite a bit. You know, because obviously you're not going to be able to get in major corporations backing WCAT, but I'm sure there are some businesses in town that would see the value of being, you know, not sponsors, but
Underrated.
underwriters for WCAT. You know,
But my fear is you have things like the Human Rights Commission or any of those other small ones where we are involved with things that they do and we cover their events, you know, what they can, like flag raisings and things like that. But this is now a consideration. What's going to eventually happen is they're just not going to be including us in it. There's going to be a loss of that to the rest of the town.
well, I think the Human Rights Commission is a bad example because it's a town department. It's a town body, town government body. It's not an independent, you know, if you were talking an independent group, say the Wakefield Artists Group, for instance, or the Historical Society. You know, and they didn't want to do that. I could see your point. But the Human Rights Commission is a town body, so it would come under, I would think, the memorandum of understanding and how that's worked out, or it should.
I mean, the other thing is that the Human Rights Commission and some of the other town appointed boards, they do have money in the budget to help some of their events. And they do pay speakers and dancers or whatever that come. So I think that should be part of the thing. If you want it to be shown,
That's part of
and,
my question.
you know, I think
Yeah,
that
that's great,
that's the
then.
I don't
decision
think
people
any
have
of-
to make.
Yeah, I don't think any of that is unreasonable.
Okay.
That's why I asked this as a
Yeah.
question. Is this gonna be something that is going to be a sticker shock to people? Or is it something that is already kind of there and now we're just?
And I understand what you're saying, Ian, and, you know, the other side of this coin is this was talked about on the WCAT board going back 20 years. Okay, and it just never went anywhere. It never went anywhere because they were seeing the money coming in from the cable companies and the majority of the board people of the time, and I'm speaking only when I was on the board, because I don't know what's been happening since, because the fact that my daughter is on the board, I have to keep myself separate completely.
You know, shoulda, woulda, coulda, I'm only dealing with what I see going forward.
Yeah.
So I'm just asking these questions, because I would hate to see us end up in the situation where some other communities are in, where their stations are now out of money. And they are cutting back on things.
Right,
And people in the town have noticed, and they are upset about it,
right,
that things aren't being covered that they would wanna see.
right,
So I wanna make sure that we don't manufacture that
right.
on our own selves.
No, and if WCAT as an organization starts going out and pounding the pavement for funding. You know, as a 501c3, that should also cushion that.
Hmm.
That should.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's an equal responsibility here in this plan. I hope that that's been communicated. WCAT has responsibilities for its operation.
Yes.
The town has responsibilities for its operation. And if the two work together right, this thing should be fairly smooth. And I will say should be, because nothing ever absolutely is. Okay, and there may be some bumps along the way, and hopefully, you know, reasonable people can come to some sort of a middle ground. Okay, one would hope.
One would hope.
So, but yes, there is going to also be commensurate responsibilities on the board side to now start taking this very seriously,
Oh, we have.
you know, and change how essentially, for lack of a better phrase, WCAT does business.
Thank you for the consideration. That was my only question.
Okay,
I think,
does that help? Okay,
I think the only feedback I have on that is we need to be consistent, right? That's the key
Mhm.
here.
mhm,
Either everybody gets charged a little bit.
Yeah.
Or something.
Right.
or nobody gets
Mhm.
charged.
Right.
That's where you're gonna could
Yeah.
really run into a problem.
Yes,
You're billing them, you're not billing us.
Yeah.
You
Part
don't-
of it, I think,
You
is
don't
how,
want that, you don't need that.
yeah, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things I want to report.
Yes,
part of it, and sometimes this is the toughest part. You and I both, having been in this business for a long time, understand this. Part of it is the message and how the message is delivered. Okay? And how the other side receives the message. So, and sometimes that can be the toughest thing.
No such thing as a free lunch.
Well,
And
for everyone else's benefit, when we were working together, we did a number of nonprofit groups and negotiating what we could charge them and what they could afford was, in one case especially, an annual process.
Mhm.
And luckily, we were always able to find a middle ground, in this 501(c)(3) in its incarnation then was very good about it.
Mhm.
Okay. And you know, how they approached it might be a good model for the WCAT board to understand. So I'll leave that to you to communicate. So, all right, anything else?
Does this put in any sort of a timeframe?
No. No, I studiously avoided timeframes because they never work. They never work, but also at the same time, I was trying to recognize the fact that we're basically changing everything here
Yes.
from what everybody's been used to since 1990. So, and that's a long time. You know, it would have been nice if this process had changed back in 1998 when WCAT got tossed out of the Warren School. Didn't happen. Didn't happen. So, because those were you know, there was a lot of cable money in those days that there isn't today. And quite frankly, although I'm working very tightly with Donald Wong on the streaming bill, I tell you, with everything else that's been going on the last few weeks, you know, if that'll even go anywhere. I know that state senator, our state senator is not very happy with me right now after what I told him at the chamber breakfast, but so I don't know. But assume that it isn't going to happen. If it does, then it's gravy, but assume it isn't going to happen.
So, maybe we can have, I'll move that we
I-
accept the final report with the
Seconded.
change.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay. I don't think we need to talk about the winter sports coverage because we've accepted this, so that makes that point moot. Approval of minutes from the last meeting. Hopefully everyone read them online. I do like this Covenda, by the way. It does make things
You
easier.
didn't like it in the beginning. You got converted.
All right.
I haven't liked it for a long.
I know. Mike's never come over.
It's a convenient way. I still like paper and pencil, but it's a convenient way for a committee like this. Any comments, questions on the minutes? Entertain a motion to accept.
Move to accept the minutes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Opposed? Okay,
Okay.
we'll go around the table, group comments. Steve?
I'm good. 28th will be on the town council agenda unless you hear otherwise. That's my
Okay,
plan.
You'll send me an email with a confirmation.
Yes, I will.
And I'll pencil it in for now. Mike?
I just think this is a process. This is the start of the process. That's good, because you got to get people thinking about it.
Mhm.
You know, if you get it to the council and they're sitting there thinking about it, then they'll be thinking this is something that's coming, potentially coming our way.
Mhm.
And I think that's the big take. I have on this, you know. I had lunch with a coworker today and I just mentioned I'm going to this committee meeting. She said, what's that all about? Well, you know, we're losing fees because of the streaming. Oh yeah, everybody's streaming now, yeah. And we as a town want the services. So once you get that in front of the council, I think that, you know, you embed that in their heads. And the more people know about this, the probably, hopefully, never easy, but the easier it'll be to, you know, if push comes to shove, to make that case.
Mhm.
That's all.
Well, and I will plan to be there for that. So.
I'm sure you will.
Amy, anything? Ian?
I would just like to thank everybody for the work on this. I would absolutely agree with you, Mike, that this is the first step in a very, not long process, but a very intense process. The entire community access as a whole is facing this in myriad of ways, not just funding, but also in identity, in point of what you're to be sending out to and what people want to see. And we're doing a lot of this. We're working with Northeastern to get a very much clearer understanding of where the populace is and what it is that they're looking for. And how we can turn that into a reliable supplemental revenue stream. Whether it'll completely replace what is coming from cable, who knows? Minnesota has an interesting idea for theirs. They're actually taxing social media based on their data mining operation, which has just come out, which is an interesting thing. So there's a whole changeover of many things. So it's a crazy time to look. It's a lot akin to the initial stages of the newspaper revolution.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for everything.
All set.
All set?
I was just gonna say too, I think it's great that we're adapting to change, right? So I think that's necessary and certainly a step in the right direction. And although I think I've only been here for 4 of the 10 meetings, it's been great to have been with the group and help to contribute. So I thank everybody as well. It's good for the town. Good
Paul?
WCAT.
I'd just like to echo what Ian said. Thanks everybody for volunteering your time, and helping or recognizing the importance of the role that WCAT plays in the community, and that we look forward to continuing that contribution for many years to come.
And I just want to thank everybody for participating, for contributing. This has been a really positive experience, and I don't accept these easily, as Steve will tell you. And so I'm really happy that we've been able to bring this to the point that we have, and hopefully we'll see it grow in the future. And you know, but thank you very much. And I will say that's 2 for 2 now on groups that I've been involved with the town. I was part of the inaugural group for the Human Rights Commission. For the time I was there, it was a very rewarding few years. So thank you. Thank you. And we will look forward to bringing this before town council in the very near future. Motion to
Move to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
adjourn, yeah.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
We go.
We're out of here,
Look at that.
Okay, job.
Well done.
and hopefully the rain is